Let's ride. Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the NFL Live Before Lock Show presented by Prize Picks. This is going to be a fun one. It's going to be a massive, massive game here. We have on tap for tonight New England Patriots visiting the Buffalo Bills. And oh my goodness, if you head to @EricLindquist on Twitter, you will see some lovely videos that I have posted of just what we are dealing with here in the weather department. Other people that I think you should go follow on Twitter today, this second, in fact, that would be Matt Savoca. He's a fantastic human being. He's great. You should be following him @Draftaholic. Then Neil Orfield. You should go follow him @PlayerQDFS. They are my co-hosts here for today. But Matt Savoca, how you doing, my dude?
Hey, I am so excited for this one. Two great offenses, two great defenses, a lot on the line, a little bit of weather, or should I say a lot of bit of weather. So stoked to get into it tonight.
Is my mic quiet? It might be a little quiet. I don't know. I'm not in control of such things. I'm just chilling here. Awesome, yo. We got Mike Lawrence. He's taking care of everything behind the scenes. We have no worries. We got Neil Orfield in the house, too. Millie Maker winner. Are you sick of ever hearing about that, Neil Orfield?
No, rest of my life. That's all I want people to call me. Millie Maker winner Neil Orfield.
That's not a bad idea. How you doing, my guy?
I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to this slate. It's a tough one. There's a lot going on here. It'll be fun to break down to hear what you guys have to say.
It's a tough one, but it's also going to be perhaps one of the more fun, if not the most fun showdown slate. I think these projected low scoring slugfest. We got a 40.5 total. We've got some sub 40 totals bouncing around in places. I haven't seen anything like this in a while. In case anybody didn't hear, it is like 40. It is snowing. It is blowing 25 to 35 miles per hour like crazy. I'm going to be factoring this in. I think we should all be factoring this in. But Matt Savoca, we have some inactives, some actives we need to be talking about, specifically one Zach Moss. But if you want to go through the list of guys, do let me know right now.
Yeah, the big one for me is Zach Moss. Isaiah McKenzie is out. We have seen him be in a couple of recent games, caught a touchdown, I believe, 3 weeks ago. And yeah, that's the big one for me. Moss, I think with the weather of this game, it's all hands on deck for anyone who carries the football. So I am not surprised to see Zach Moss in there at all. I'm just pulling up the inactives list right now to make sure.
I was going to say, go ahead and pull up the inactives. We got a super chat right off the bat, and it is pretty hilarious. Twisted Reality Gaming. Which Pats running back do we play with the weather? Do we fade both QBs? Do we fade Diggs? Like, WTF do we do tonight? LOL. That kind of encompasses everything that I have to think about this slate. It's so glorious, though, because as much as I love shootouts when it comes to main slates, I love horrible weather games. I love all of this stuff for these specific standalone slates, because you can find some discernible edges, I think, just by using some logic, by taking some strong aggressive stands, which I definitely am. I'm building 150 tonight. It's going to get weird based on what my co-hosts have to say here along with it for the analysis. But Matt Savoca, back to you.
Okay, the big thing is Kyle Duggar is the safety, right? He is out. And I do think in a normal weather circumstance, that would matter to me. This would affect the Buffalo passing game in a positive manner for me. I feel like we're going to have to caveat a million times over the next hour. We're going to say this stat except the weather. But overall, I think this is a slight boost for the Buffalo pass game in general here. Otherwise, the inactive list, not surprising. The one thing we do have to mention, though, on the Buffalo side, you won't see it on the inactives list, but the loss of Trey White still hasn't been fully felt. The ramifications not fully felt out yet. And so with this first big game against a capable offense, I am really interested to see, can that Buffalo secondary hold up? It's been essentially the best in the NFL, first in yards allowed per pass attempt.
Neil, anything stick out to you with some inactives as we get this show going here before we go position by position?
No, Zach Moss is really the only one that I was looking for. Not entirely sure what to do there, but I guess I'm going to have to keep refreshing the single game tool and see what the site is thinking, because that'll probably guide me a little bit.
Yeah, right now still projected for 0. Hold tight. We still got just short of an hour here to go. We'll be all set with all the analysis you need, but from the get-go, this entire game just looks brutal. Vegas, that total has plummeted to around 40. We're looking at it pretty much every book. New England is a 3-point dog here in this spot. Again, 3 points might be an odd number to land on. We'll talk about that a little later in the program. Maybe devote more time to kicker and defense than what we normally do, simply because I got some takes for you. But these guys have some takes for you, and we're looking for this quarterback position right off the bat. If there's one of the two guys that is going to be impacted more, I think we can all agree Mac Jones, confirmed not as good at running as what Josh Allen is. Hello, common sense. But Neil Orfield, what are you doing with Mac Jones in this horrific weather spot?
Yeah, so I'm still going to have plenty of Mac Jones just because he's not too expensive. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. Looks like I'm going to get to a lot of Mac Jones in the flex. I'm not going to have a ton of Mac Jones captain. I'm not expecting him to have a huge game here. I don't think that you're going to need a huge score from anybody necessarily in this game just because it's going to be so low scoring. I think in general, the DFS scores will also be suppressed because the game score is suppressed. So Mac Jones could put up 14 fantasy points and that could be optimal. He could put up 12 fantasy points and potentially be optimal just because there's not going to be a ton of scoring. So I'm still going to have a lot of Mac Jones, even if he's not my favorite quarterback in this game.
Yeah, he can definitely still, throw a couple dump offs to Ramondre Stevenson, confirmed good at catching footballs. Brandon Bolden, confirmed good at catching footballs here and running some of those to the house. Big playability that exists at the running back spot. Of course, Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar. All you need is that one small play to happen at the goal line, wherever else. And, it doesn't matter that it's blowing 30 miles an hour. But Matt Savoca, how are you factoring in Mac Jones for this slate?
Yeah, I really like Mac Jones. And to Neil's point, when the scoring of a slate overall is expected to be lower, then higher raw points, regardless of positional value or anything like that, gets more important. And we can expect the highest floor typically from the quarterback position. And Mac Jones has been anything but a rookie in terms of efficiency this year. In the advanced metrics that I like to look at, EPA per play and completion percentage over expectation, Mac Jones is the 8th best quarterback in the NFL this year. Really, really impressive stuff. Of course, Josh Allen on the other side, he's 3rd. But I can't believe it. New England is 3rd in the NFL in points scored per play and 6th in yards per pass attempt. This is an elite offense with Mac Jones under center. So I'm going to be above the field. I'm with Neil. I'm more bullish on the flex position because I feel like that floor of points is more valuable, especially on DraftKings when I have to pay more in salary. But I'm pretty bullish on Mac Jones tonight.
Yeah, the power rank for offense on PFF, New England's 4th. The Bills are 8th. That should give us some context of what we're talking about here with this crazy run that the Patriots have been on for their last 6 games. It has not remotely been close. I think they've been the best team in the NFL in that span. Just hello, eye test. There's that. But Bills for sure at home here, maybe more used to the conditions. I suppose Mac Jones, we haven't seen him necessarily up north, played college football down there at Alabama, playing bowl games and such of that likening. Less weather, less elements. I think that might be a small piece of this game for me. But again, he's a quarterback on Showdown. You don't need a whole heck of a lot for a cheaper quarterback to be able to go and get there for you. 10K for him on DraftKings, 1,200 less than Josh Allen. Obviously, Josh Allen is going to be the priority play, and that's expressed in the projections, but quarterback being a pretty flat position. Let's move to Josh Allen. This is the talking point because he is a guy that Neil Orfield, you can definitely utilize because of his ability on the ground, but also just super lethal through the air. His points or his yardage props have just been plummeting over and over here. Again, I'll refresh that. We'll get to some Oddsshopper. We'll get to some prize picks later here in this show. But Josh Allen, what can you possibly say about his prospects for this game? He's a great play.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen looks fantastic. I'm glad to see that the tools love him because I also love him. I actually currently have him in 100% of my lineups. I've got him in about 1/3 of my lineups at captain and about 2/3 in the flex. I just think that he is, as we were talking about, he's just got that high floor. He's probably going to be in the optimal lineup, even if he doesn't put up a huge score because scoring is going to be suppressed. Generally, I'm going to want to correlate him with his receivers or receiving running backs. But in this case, I mean, he's also going to do more with his legs. I think that the fact that it's going to be windy might lead them to running more plays with Josh Allen running rather than throwing the ball. So I just think that he's got a really high floor, really high ceiling. As I said, I'm going to have 100% of Josh Allen in my lineups on DraftKings.
As am I. And Matt, I think we can all agree that he probably makes the best raw projection. He is obviously the best raw projection we have, but there's even a tiny bit of leverage to rostering him in the utility. He's got a 35.4% chance of being the top scoring play here on the game on DraftKings. On FanDuel, 47.2%, even more On Yahoo, pretty comparable, 46.6%, both of those being half-point PPR sites. But talk to me about your interest here in Josh Allen. Are you going 100% with Neil and I?
I am not quite at 100, but I am over 85%. So we're directionally the exact same here, and we're seeing it the exact same way. One thing that we haven't really talked about is the weather might take away that possibility that coaches make the wrong decision and don't go for it on 4th down and kick a field goal. Therefore, Josh Allen is staying in on 4th down and say 2 or 3 and trying to rush for a first down, or, it could obviously go to any of the backs, but Josh Allen, when they get close to the goal line, he has 33% of the team's rushes inside the 10-yard line. So he has so many outs here, so many ways that he could hit. I completely understand why you guys are just locking it in, going with that 100% Josh Allen. I think he's a fantastic play. And I think the idea that the weather takes away makes people more nervous about Josh Allen means that I kind of want to lean into the strongest and safest play of the night.
Yeah, and he's got a cannon. So on some of these short routes, I don't want to be the guy catching the football. Cole Beasley on some of these short out routes, Dawson Knox as well. It would hurt my hands, I think, in that weather. I'm a pansy like that. But I'm definitely thinking that Josh Allen stands out here. Growing up in Minnesota, Neil, we played backyard football and this stuff. It was a lot of fun. It was some of the most fun football that you could possibly play in this. But definitely don't want somebody who's out there chucking the ball super, super hard, but that's what Josh Allen can do. And I think that's probably a good thing, cut through some of the wind. Again, these are all just ancillary takes that aren't backed in data, but we have very little precedence other than looking at this low total, looking at everything else here. Neil, how much Mac Jones, how much Josh Allen? Obviously, we said 100%. Are you getting to quite a bit of captain exposure? Who might be, I guess I should talk on FanDuel, because especially where he's nearly 50% chance of being optimal, how much Josh Allen are you playing at that top spot?
So I am working on my FanDuel right now. It looks like I'm going to have a ton of Josh Allen at the top spot. I mean, on FanDuel especially, it's just you need the raw score in the MVP. I don't think it would be the wrong play to just play Josh Allen 100%. I don't anticipate that that's what I'm doing, Josh Allen at MVP on FanDuel, but I think that it's a viable play. I just like to, take shots, kind of spread out my MVP ownership a little bit, because if it's a receiver scoring a touchdown in a 1-touchdown game, he's probably going to be the optimal instead of Josh Allen potentially. So I don't think I'll have 100% Josh Allen at MVP, but I think that I will probably be maybe higher than 50%. I guess I'll take a look at the field, what the field's doing, but I anticipate having a ton of Josh Allen at MVP, and then Mac Jones will be my second most highly owned at MVP on FanDuel, I would anticipate. I'm still working on it, but like I said, I just think that they're the two highest projected plays on the slate, the two most likely to put up big scores, so I will have a lot of them, and favoring Josh Allen by quite a bit.
Matt, close the loop on quarterbacks for us. Anything you want to add to Mac Jones, Josh Allen, or basically this entire game in general?
Yeah, I just think that the way that these quarterbacks get there is an unorthodox way tonight, but that doesn't mean our projections have to change drastically here. I think that Josh Allen ultimately is the best play on the slate, but I am concerned about duping lineups, especially on FanDuel, where it's kind of obvious. You almost feel like instinctually you need Josh Allen in every lineup. So that kind of makes me inclined to try to go lean into that uncertainty and move away on that platform. I haven't finished my final run here, but I'm going to have a ton, but I think I may end up under the field on FanDuel.
All righty. Love it. I got a couple super chats here. We'll do D Owens 89 here first. Is Breida captain plus Singletary in large field viable? We're going to talk about the running backs here in a second. And then Twisted Reality Gaming, even with the crazy wind, Nick Folk has been averaging a ridiculous 11 fantasy points per game as a kicker. How does Awesemo feel about the Nick Folk tonight as captain/flex? We'll get there. Neil and I notoriously high on kickers generally. I'm playing 150 lineups and I have 0 kickers in this game. But we will get there, because that's going to be a fun conversation to have. Might have to bring that one up even a little bit more to the forefront, talk about it a little bit before defenses, because I want those takes for sure to get in before we get to anything else. But let's segue here. Let's talk Awesemo tools and content here. $29.95 right now for the weekly pass. That includes everything that we offer behind the paywall, not just NFL, not just the Elite Showdown contest tools that we have, not just main slate projections, not just ownership projections for that, but NBA, When we've got MLB that'll be coming back, obviously in March. We have NBA. And, look at it. Just check out all the tools and content that we have there. NHL in full swing here with all of the guys doing amazing work there. I can't tell you enough. I'm somebody who doesn't know that much about hockey, and I can be profitable using our tools and content. And that starts for $29.95. But if you use NFL Showdown live before lock, that's NFL Showdown LBL, all caps, one word, you'll get 25% right now off of that first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Activate it in the description of the video below. And of course, if you're looking to just play the NFL DFS stuff, $3.95 is where the weekly packages are starting at. Those will be more limited tools. Definitely use this promo code NFL Showdown LBL, all caps, one word. All right, let's talk running back here right off the bat. D. Owens, 89. I said I'd get back to that super chat. Is Breida captain plus Singletary in large field viable? Neil, how do you feel about specifically these entire Buffalo Bills running backs with Zach Moss active?
Yeah, so Zach Moss complicates things a little bit, but in general, I have no issue with that. I like to correlate running backs from the same team, and I think that today is a game in particular where you want to correlate things, just because if you're expecting it to be a really low scoring game and you're expecting there to be a running back in the captain spot on DraftKings, then you might want to have more running backs, defenses, kickers. I don't know, maybe not kickers. Well, maybe Eric would dispute that, but running backs and defenses in your lineup, just because they correlate well with the running backs. They correlate well with a low scoring game. I think that's kind of how you can write up a narrative for the game. So yeah, I have no problem having Breida at captain along with Singletary, even if Zach Moss might cut into them a little bit. Who knows? He could just be there for emergency purposes. We don't really know, but I think that's a fine play to do for sure.
Spencer S. said I should beg for likes, so I'm going to beg for likes. Please hit the like button. Make us feel good. That's great. Matt Savoca, I started with the Bills running backs mainly because we started with this super chat, and it made for a good conversation with Zach Moss active there. How do you feel about the Bills running back situation in a terrible weather game?
I feel bad about figuring out who's going to get any given touch. Last week, it was Devin Singletary who quietly actually out-touched, at least in the rushing game, Matt Breida. But Matt Breida had the highlight play, scored on a screen pass on Thanksgiving night, and he's been called out by his teammates as in the post-game press conferences, basically, is impressing the team in general. So I do think Matt Breida is on an upward trajectory where, with Zach Moss inactive last week, active now in an all-hands-on-deck situation because of the weather, I have no idea what to expect from Zach Moss. But since week 6, that's a 5-game sample size where Moss was active, he did have 44% of the running back attempts. I don't think it's going to be that high, but I don't think it's going to be zero. So I think 20% of the rush attempts for Moss, probably 40 to 50 for Devin Singletary, and the rest to Matt Breida and Josh Allen. Breida, of course, is going to get more work in the receiving game, but I just broke it down here. This is a big pie chart. A lot of people eating from that pie, and yes, they're going to get work, but I don't have any guess which one on any given moment, other than Josh Allen, is going to have the ball.
I feel the same way. I mean, Zach Moss just kind of makes it a cluster, and it makes sense though, right? You don't want to just have two active running backs in a game where you're going to be leaning pretty heavily on the running game, and you don't want to have Josh Allen go out there and get killed. But this is an extremely, extremely important game for both teams. You got to put your best players in there. I don't know if Zach Moss qualifies as the best players, but I'm going to be leaning more heavily with Matt Breida as a result of, I think he feels like their best chance to win football games. And that's what we saw there in New Orleans. I think that's what we see tonight. Neil, break down how much exposure you're getting to of these Buffalo Bills running backs, specifically on DraftKings.
So for me on DraftKings right now, I have a ton of Devin Singletary. He is by far my most. I think that's just because he had the biggest role last week, and he's much cheaper than Matt Breida. So maybe I haven't factored in that Matt Breida might be taking on more of a role than we're expecting. We don't really know that that's happening, but that is an interesting point that he could be. But for now, I have a lot more Devin Singletary. I'm way over the field on Devin Singletary. I'm a little bit under the field on Matt Breida. And right now I have, I think, one share of Zach Moss. So maybe I'll redo that if I look at the single game tool and Zach Moss comes in hot, but I don't feel that it's necessary. I mean, it might be. Zach Moss is interesting, I guess, because he is only 600, so it really wouldn't take much for him to be optimal. So I am kind of reconsidering that now that he's active. I was initially doing this, made all my runs with him inactive, and then of course the news comes out that he's active, which I probably should have anticipated because they're going to need to run the ball a lot in this game. So he does become a little bit interesting if you think he's going to get some touches at 600. Maybe I'm changing that too now. Maybe I'm going to add a little bit more Zach Moss. But currently, I'm definitely highest on Devin Singletary.
Would you be
thinking, our tools?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Eric.
No, okay. I was going to literally just throw it back to you. I was going to ask. We had a question in the chat. Moss Captain from James G. Moss Captain, $600. I mean, I don't think we need those kind of savings. I'm going to be going more towards Josh Allen as the captain, even those builds. You would probably need a touchdown plus 50, 60 to at least have a chance at being optimal. Feels risky with 3 backs there, but go ahead and talk about what you wanted to, Matt.
Yeah, you can do it for a player that is active on a single game slate. It is really slim pickings for Bills running backs, particularly with the complication of Josh Allen at the goal line. I will say our tools are specifically pointing to Devin Singletary as the best of the Bills backfield, even with Zach Moss updated in our latest run of projections and optimal lineups. He's coming in as an optimal utility play 1.1% of the time. In 1 out of 100 times we run this game, he is in the optimal lineup. So you can play him, but his leverage score, his chance of being in the optimal lineup compared to projected ownership is -5%. That is the second worst on the slate. So our tools are saying, sure, you can play him, but it's not a really exciting spot.
All right. What is exciting to me, though, going right back to you, Matt, what are you going to be doing here with Damien Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, these two splitting work now with New England? We saw the massive game from Ramondre Stevenson when he had the backfield all to himself. Well, splitting time between the two, they're not nearly as appealing, but about the exact same projection, about the exact same ownership. Do you have any lean whatsoever between the two?
Can you believe it? I have the exact same ownership of the two.
Of course,
and I'm above the field. I'm above the field on both players, but they are literally identical in both captain ownership and combined ownership. I did not plan it that way, but I think that their probability of scoring a touchdown is about equal. I will say instinctually that this is narrative based. I don't think Damien Harris has a path to scoring through the air really in any game scenario, especially one where weather is a concern. And I do feel like Ramondre Stevenson can catch screen passes if necessary. I know Brandon Bolden is there as the receiving back, basically the discount James White role. But by far, I'm going to have Ramondre Stevenson and Damien Harris much higher owned than Bolden.
All right. And now going to the Millie Maker winner over there, Neil. What are you doing between the two? Same question.
Yeah, so currently I am higher on Stevenson just because he's so much cheaper than Damien Harris, and they've been splitting carries, so why not go with the cheaper guy? The ownership isn't that much higher on Stevenson than Harris, but I am under the field on both currently just because I'm spreading out my ownership other places right now. Actually, if we're talking about the New England running backs, here's where I'm getting a little bit different. I'm one of the stands I'm taking is getting over the field on Brandon Bolden and just hoping that he gets a number of dump off passes and they don't score a lot of points, but if he gets 5 receptions, just dump offs, and he gets a point per each reception. I think Brandon Bolden is kind of sneaky he's projected for 10% ownership. I'm going to be well over that just as kind of he's low owned. It wouldn't be shocking if he just gets a number of dump offs. So I think Brandon Bolden is the one that I have the most interest in.
I love you so much because Brandon Bolden is the guy that I'm getting to the absolute most here. Only playing 32% of the offensive snaps here, but not just do I feel like this is a spot where, if they get behind and they are 3-point dogs here in this spot, I'm looking at them having Brandon Bolden out there quite a bit to be a complement to their passing game. And Ramondre Stevenson is incredible. I think this guy is a stud. I would want them to be leaning more heavily on him, but 5,600 for him, 9,800 for Damien Harris. If I want to be siding more with the Allen play up in the captain spot, specifically on DraftKings, I'm going to be looking at somebody like Brandon Bolden who could possibly get 5-6 catches in a spot like this. Doesn't need much yardage, and that just raises his floor a ridiculous amount. If they get ahead, I'm probably in a lot of trouble, but I'm also getting him at nearly 1/3 of the ownership of Stevenson, about half the ownership of Harris here. I'm absolutely obsessed with Brandon Bolden on this slate as well. So I really like that call by you. Man, I just have so many lineups with multiple of these running backs. Are you looking, Matt, possibly at playing 3, even 4 of these guys in the same lineup tonight?
I typically make rules about limiting the same positions, specifically with running backs. Not tonight. Not tonight. Especially people who can just receive a direct handoff where the wind plays almost no factor in them receiving the ball. I'm going to be higher on them this week for sure. So I have no problem playing two of those New England backs. I feel a little bit worse about playing those 2 Buffalo backs, again, because of Josh Allen's rushing ability. But in large field tournaments, it's definitely not out of the question.
Sean Preston, this slate is super scary. Yeah, it's terrifying. We're going to make stands, and I'm making strong stands. Yay, Brandon Bolden. I'm a little bit over on Stevenson. I'm a little bit flat on Damian Harris. And then the Buffalo Bills, I'm just scattershotting all over the place. Neil Orfield, are you making any groups to account for this running back, or are you just kind of letting it ride on this slate?
My groups are actually boosting other running backs. If I have a running back at captain, the only group that I have related to running backs, I guess I give a boost to Brandon Bolden if I have Mac Jones at captain. But other than that, I have if I have one of these running backs at captain, I give a boost to the defenses and other running backs.
All righty. Absolutely love it here. Matt, anything else that you'd like to discuss here at the running back position before we move on?
I think we covered it. I will say, just to make the case for Damian Harris, I think this is a game where they, as in the New England Patriots, really, really wants to control the clock. And that means Damian Harris on early down. So I think he will get the opportunities to succeed here. If he has a few big plays early, they could ride him as good as I think Stevenson is as well.
All right. Love it here. Let's jump on over and talk a little bit of Prize Picks. Our sponsor here, absolutely love Prize Picks and looking forward to playing over there. These kind of slates are incredible, and we have the tools over at Oddsshopper to make it super simple and super easy for you to be able to go over there and play right now. Also, head over to Oddsshopper and start looking over there as we're talking through this, because I'm telling you right now, it is going to be beneficial to you to do so. I'm going to be giving away one free, and I'm saying free right now, Awesemo Plus month to the winner of the giveaway. We're going to do another scavenger hunt here live starting in 20 minutes here, just a little bit after 5 o'clock. I'm going to be giving away a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum to the person who can answer my question on Oddsshopper. So get familiar with those tools. Have Buffalo pulled up on your screen. Have New England pulled up on your screen. We're going to be asking 2 questions. I'm going to be asking specifically about some of the props that are sitting at the top of that page. Be ready for it. But in the meantime, use that information, use the projections directly on that screen to help you win over at Prize Picks. And these guys have some Prize Picks plays here in store for you. These are daily prop-based contests here at Prize Picks. And right now, if you use promo code Awesemo, you'll get $100 first match deposit bonus. So utilize that now. That's how you build and how you sustain a bankroll. There's no sharks, no optimizers, none of that stuff. We get to just play the player props. You can play 2 to 5 players in it. You can net out to 10x your entry fee. And if you play in some of those with 5 players in it, you can also win if you will get just 4 of 5. You can also get half of your money back or just short of half of your money back when you get 3 of 5. So unlike a 5-player parlay where your ticket would be dead in that standpoint, you are still looking at building your bankroll. If you get 4 or 5 or 3 of 5, you're not getting completely nuked the way that you would at a sports book. So let's start over there with Matt Savoca. He's got a player prop in store. What are you looking at for a play on Prize Picks tonight?
All right, I'm going to add gulp because I'm pretty nervous about this, but our stats say that this one has a pretty solid chance of winning. Also, I compared this over at Oddsshopper with the prop bet I could do. I'm going to talk about Nelson Aguilar over 16.5 receiving yards on Prize Picks. The prop bet nearest to me in New Jersey is 19.5, and we still have way the over on that based on our projections. I know, weather, caveat it with everything we were talking about tonight, but I still think we're getting a pretty good deal with 16.5 being the current receiving yard prop line for Aguilar. That means just basically one catch and a little bit of efficiency. If he gets two, he probably gets there over Nelson Aguilar 16.5.
All right, excited to talk some wide receiver here. Neil, fire it up. Let me know, what are you playing over on Prize Picks tonight?
Yeah, so I've got the over on Mac Jones 185.5 passing yards. We've got him on Oddsshopper with the over on 188.5 passing yards, has a 31% expected ROI and a 68% win percentage. So it's even lower on Prize Picks. Yeah, the win scares me, but just because he doesn't throw it far doesn't mean he doesn't get the passing yards. So even if his targets are low ADOT, the receiver can still catch the ball and take it several yards, and he'll still get credit for those. We've got him projected for 210 passing yards. I mean, that's just a really low yardage total for a quarterback in passing yards. So I think over 185.5 is a pretty easy one for me today.
I think our projections love Devin Singletary, and I think I know why. Because I think there's some anticipation that he might be involved in the passing game here in this spot. Breida, going back to his time, they're not exactly the most ideal guy to be targeting there. I'm loving that more than 2 receptions there for Devin Singletary. I think that really makes a lot of sense over at Prize Picks. So that's my favorite over there as well. Nelson Aguilar, I think he makes a lot of sense. I think having a little bit more exposure to some of these low completions, these receptions props makes a lot of sense. So that's going to be mine here to add into the fray. Put those 3 together, and you're going to have a pretty good chance, I think, over on Prize Picks. So utilize that information, and best of luck to you tonight. And don't forget, we're about to do a giveaway here in about 15 minutes over on Oddsshopper. But first, we've got to talk wide receivers. We've got to talk tight ends, and then we will do that giveaway. Looking forward to it. To the wide receiver spot we go, and we're going to start with New England here. Keep it a little bit more protocol here. And TF, we got a great super chat there. Everybody wants to talk kickers, and I cannot wait. It's going to be my favorite segment probably ever on any NFL show, period. But I'm looking here for the New England side, and we know that we got Jakobi Meyers here waiting in the fray. And Neil, I got to be thinking that he's somebody that you like on this slate.
Yeah, so I'm pretty spread out at the receivers, to be honest. I think that I am close to the field on everybody. Jakobi Meyers looks pretty good in the tools. He's got positive leverage. So I think that I'm probably increasing my Jakobi Meyers exposure as we go. I'm actually recrunching now. I'm getting into a lot less Devin Singletary, just as an aside, than I had been previously with his new projection with Zach Moss in. So I'm changing things up a little bit. But yeah, it's looking like I am getting to a ton of Jakobi Meyers currently. I am currently right about the field. I think I might want to get a little bit over the field ultimately, just because he is their number 1 receiver. And I don't know. I still think they're going to be able to move the ball. They're still going to want to get the ball into their best playmakers' hands. So maybe they'll fail. Maybe they'll give up on that in the second half, but I think they're going to at least try. And there's still a good chance that they're going to be able to do it. He looks really good in the top players single game tool. Jakobi Meyers projected for 32.2% utility ownership, but a 37.2% chance of being optimal. You like to see that. He's neutral in captain spot, 6.6% projected ownership, but 6.6% captain optimal. So I think that he's, certainly a good play. The ownership is there, but I think that you still want to get to a fair amount of Jakobi Meyers.
I think so too. He stands out. He's got positive leverage too in the tools right now. 5% leverage going to him. Cole Beasley, Stephon Diggs, and Emmanuel Sanders, all the passing game options from Buffalo being 1, 2, 3. We'll get to them here in a second, but let's close the loop here on the passing options from New England. And Matt, I really like Jakobi Meyers, but there's also Nelson Aguilar that exists, and there's positive leverage to be had with him at 3.4% over on the DraftKings slate. And Kendrick Bourne is still there. Are there other New England options that you're getting to on this slate?
Yeah, I'm actually within 5% of our expected ownership on all of these wide receivers. So I'm a little bit with Neil where I'm not taking a super strong stance. The one thing I will add about the Meyers debate is that he really has only had 2 end zone targets all season. This lack of scoring touchdowns is a thing. And when you need touchdowns on a 1-game slate, that scares me a little bit. So I am looking at players like Kendrick Bourne, like Nelson Aguilar, who has, I believe, by far the highest average depth of target over the course of this season. I know it's windy, it's crazy. One catch off one tipped pass has happened. And so when you're looking at lower ownership, lower salary, now I can start to see it happening here. I don't really have any strong stances between Aguilar and Bourne. And I will say I'll save it for the tight ends, but I do think short area targets are going to happen. I just think that the wide receivers here might be doing a lot of wind sprints.
Yeah, it might be the case here, but there's still positive leverage, I think, for
Yeah.
Myers, still for Aguilar. It's such a dicey situation, and they catch one ball and take it to the house, and there you go. Congratulations. Welcome to NFL Showdown, the best time that you possibly can have if you roster them. But yeah, I think maybe just a tiny bit under-owned for Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne. I'm a tiny bit over, but I'm not enthusiastic about it. It's more of a play that I'm just using because the tools do say, hey, there's some positive leverage to be had with some of these guys. It's not like if they get behind, they're not going to try to throw the ball around here in some spots. So I don't mind getting to them. I'm going to be careful about not getting too much exposure in the same lineup for a lot of these guys, though. Moving on to the Buffalo side, which is just so intriguing because we know the kind of ridiculousness that Josh Allen can kind of be at the helm of here for Buffalo, but all three of these guys, Cole Beasley, Stephon Diggs, Emmanuel Sanders, are just jumping way, way up to the top. Let's start with the most expensive guy. Back to you, Matt. Stephon Diggs, how much of him on this slate for you?
I have over 60% right now. I'm above the field. I'm above the field at captain. So I actually locked in some of my lineups in my 150 for a situation where the weather doesn't ultimately occur. And I kind of set it up that way. So if I want to remove those 25 or so lineups at the end here, I can. But right now I'm keeping them in. And in those lineups, this Buffalo receiving core is going bananas. I have a ton of them in these lineups. The one I'm getting to the most is Cole Beasley, but I think Stephon Diggs could still easily break the slate. He's one of 9 players to have over 100 targets so far this season and receive 25% of his team's target share. So, there's an obvious gap between him and everyone else. I just like all 3, and really 4 of these receiving weapons if you include Dawson Knox at tight end.
Neil, how much Stephon Diggs for you?
I have a ton of Stephon Diggs, over 50% in the utility spot currently. And I guess I have only 5% at captain. So I guess I'm not getting as much as Stephon Diggs as I was earlier. I guess I've adjusted a little bit. I'm trying to get to more Cole Beasley as part of the reason, just because I think that Cole Beasley is a good bad weather game option because he can catch a lot of short balls and just get there with a ton of receptions. So I think that Cole Beasley is really interesting today. That maybe is suppressing my Stephon Diggs ownership a little bit, but I am over the field on Stephon Diggs in the captain spot. And then Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders is the one that's really suffering the most. I'm under the field on Emmanuel Sanders currently. I am sort of taking the stand. Matt said there are only 4 receiving options with Dawson Knox. He's clearly forgetting their top option, which is Gabriel Davis. Come on. I just think that Gabriel Davis gets a few chances every game, and we've seen him. He has in the past, at least, been a good red zone target. So I have a lot of interest. I'm going to be well over the field just because he's projected for 6.5% ownership at 1,200, and it wouldn't take much for Gabriel Davis to be optimal. You can defend yourself now, Matt.
No, I think that's a good call. If you look since week 10, only a 3-week sample size, obviously, but if you just look at the target totals, Gabriel Davis and Emmanuel Sanders are tied with 10 targets, and that's just 2 below Cole Beasley. So I think that's a great call with Gabriel Davis, clearly coming on later in the season, and a 23% air yard share. That's second on the team as well.
All right, well, let's do tight end. Let's kind of group tight end here in, and then we'll do the scavenger hunt. We'll throw that in here. It's going to be one question regarding both of these teams. Very excited to talk about that here with you. And we've got Mike Lawrence over there. Awesome, it's a guy who's been in chat here forever, doing a great job producing this show. He's going to flag down whoever that winner is and make sure you get a screen grab of it, and we'll be able to get in touch with you and know that you will be the winner there of Awesemo Plus Platinum. So if you are not yet a member here at Awesemo, this is going to be an opportunity to check out these tools for free for 1 month. Head to Oddsshopper.com, start clicking around, figure out how to sort by expected ROI, expected win percentage. And also while you're at it, hit that like button here on YouTube. It's right there. Super easy. Hit that like button. We got to get that count up here a little bit. We've got nearly 2,000 of you talking some NFL football. Looking forward to it. And I saw the kicker question there a little bit earlier. We will definitely get to all of those here. Saw the video on Twitter. They were kicking it. Yes. I'm never been more excited for something, but we got to finish it out here with tight end. Dawson Knox here on one side. We've got a zillion dudes here. Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, Tommy Sweeney, even a guy who's at 1%. You might see 1 or 2 snaps. I don't know, maybe a goal line scenario. Let's just jump it over here to Neil here to start. How are you handling tight ends here on this slate? Because they are guaranteed to catch touchdowns, is what I was told.
That is true. This is a showdown slate, so
yes,
you are guaranteed some tight end touchdowns. No, I mean, so normally I think that tight ends are the types of guys who can do well in these bad weather games. They're just big targets. They have large wingspans typically, maybe are more likely to be able to catch balls that don't go exactly where they're thrown. But the ownership is kind of there on Dawson Knox. I'm a little bit under the field. The field has him at 21% owned. I'm at 14% Dawson Knox currently. Hunter Henry, I'm also a little bit under the field. And then I am double the field on Jonnu Smith. I just think, he's cheaper. I think that he's just as likely, almost as likely as Hunter Henry. I think he's got the talent. It would not be surprising to see Jonnu Smith haul in a touchdown, and on this slate, that's all it would take at 2,400. So I'm double the field on Jonnu Smith, just a little bit under on both Hunter Henry and Dawson Knox.
Matt, a lot of tight end options. Again, they just touch touchdowns, and that's what we're expecting here. That's what I'm guaranteeing that I need to have here in my lineups, because I do have a lot of these tight ends kind of mixed and matched. They don't seem like they're that highly owned. So Dawson Knox, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, anybody that you're leaning on the most in your lineups.
Yeah, it's just some very basic science here that tight ends score touchdowns on primetime slates. We know these things. I do have some Dawson Knox. I also have a little bit of Hunter Henry, but I am below the field. Short area targets are going to be really important in this game, but ultimately this comes down to salary and value. It's not something where I feel that strongly. I think Hunter Henry has persisted on touchdowns a little too much this season, and that's why his salary has remained pretty high. Dawson Knox gets enough targets typically to be considered, but I am the most below the field on that one. That's probably my strongest choice, and it is making me feel better that me and Neil's lineup decisions, at least at the tight end position, are aligning pretty much. I'm above the field on Jonnu Smith, and I'm a little above the field on Tommy Sweeney. I have 2% Tommy Sweeney.
Ooh, Tommy Sweeney season. I'm here for it. Sweeney Todd, let's go. Get 1 touchdown. I have 3% because I thought that would be fun. But yeah, capped him. I'm going to be just fine with that. Not captained. I capped him. There we go. Had to specify that. All right, everybody. Before we get to kicker, the main event here of this entire slate and my discussion point, we're going to go and do this Oddsshopper scavenger hunt. It is super easy. It is super simple. I need you to sort by Buffalo Bills. I need you to sort by tonight's game. I need you to tell me which player has the most expected ROI on New Jersey. So it has to be on New Jersey, expected ROI. Who has the highest expected ROI? What is his prop? And then also, who is the highest expected ROI for a wide receiver? So I need to know who the highest expected player is and his expected ROI for this game. And then I need to know who has the highest expected ROI for a wide receiver in this game. They're going to be on the same page. It should be super, super simple for you. And the first person to get both of those right, to get the player on the top end and what that prop is, along with which player has the highest receiving props, is going to win 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Got to have both of those. I need to see what that number is for that prop. So you need to tell me what the number is for the prop here on that first one. No question about it, but don't just go in and guess. I know people want to guess, but head to oddshopper.com here right now. I don't see a correct answer here yet. I see, there we have. Yeah, Jeffrey Outlaw did. Jeffrey Outlaw right off the bat. We have Matt Breida. He has an over 18.5 that is sitting there with an expected ROI of 61%. We are projecting him for 25 rushing yards here. He is the highest. That is the highest expected ROI that we have here on the slate, along with Cole Beasley being the receiving yards guy. It is as easy as that. It took me 5 seconds. I clicked on the main page, I sorted by Buffalo, and I had 2 amazing bets queued up for Oddsshopper for this evening. If you go and play those over at Sportsbooks, you have direct tools from Awesemo, from Alex Baker himself, to be able to play around the industry and Sportsbooks, find those best lines. There's 15 minutes until kickoff. Utilize these plays, utilize these projections, because right now they're free. We have NBA bets up at the top. We have arbitrage betting, so many different tools. And even if you're in a state, like Matt Savoca over there, like Neil Orfield, Matt, you still go over to Oddsshopper and use some of this to get some utility, no?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can also get myself to New Jersey pretty quickly. So if I want to bet, I absolutely can. But I use this in my everyday at this point. It's also it feels like a cheat code at this point because when we have expected win rate and expected ROI, it almost feels like too easy with this tool. But truly, it is that simple. And especially if I want to create parlays, I have some family members in Pennsylvania who have been betting all the time, and they're calling me every weekend, going, "All right, what does Oddsshopper say? What are the best teams I need to go for?" It is such a great tool. I use it every weekend, and sometimes I have also hedged my DFS tournament picks with prop picks that I picked from Oddsshopper as well.
I love that. Neil, do you use Oddsshopper for anything? Is there any major utility you have up there in Minnesota for you to be utilizing to help you make lineups?
Yeah, so sadly, I can't just go to Wisconsin and use it because it's also illegal in Wisconsin.
So
I
to
only
Iowa,
use it
south. You got to go
That's
south.
what I was wondering. If I think that I can in Iowa. That's
South
right.
Dakota, go
I'll
west.
I'll give that a shot. Yeah, so I really only use it for DFS. It can kind of give you an idea of what to expect from the slate. So like if you look at Oddsshopper for today and you just look at the props, you see that all of the props are really low for wide receivers, for quarterbacks. You can tell that all of the prop lines are really low. So that kind of tells you what to expect from the slate, or what is expected generally of the slate. But you can also see that a lot of those are juiced to the over. I don't know if I'm using that terminology correctly. A lot of those, so. the ROI is better if you are betting the over. So it kind of tells you that Awesemo would say that maybe we are overrating the weather a little bit, and you can still expect the receivers to do some things, the quarterbacks to do some things. So I just kind of use it as a way to get a general sense of how the slate looks and what we're expecting from it.
Oh, Danny Roush, he said South Dakota only legal in Deadwood. In Sioux Falls, you can drive right across the border there to Iowa. It takes all of 10 minutes, and you are there's a nice, lovely place that you can go sports bet over there. So I would go check that establishment out, or utilize your apps, utilize everything that you can once you get across the border. These are just, cheat codes from a guy who goes back and visits his family in South Dakota, and it's a lovely place to go. But yes, in Deadwood, great spot. That's where I had my bachelor party too, by the way. A fun fact. I just thought it was different, go back to my home state with my buddies, and Rinpack sure enjoyed himself. He's like, "How is this pretty out here?" I don't know, but either way, Rinpack, he was at King of the Beach. Nice little 50K for him. Congrats to Rinpack here. But we are to the portion of the program I was the most excited to talk about. We have 12 minutes, so we're going to hurry it up. Kickers. I have 150 lineups tonight. I have 0% rostered kickers. This is my stand, and I have 2 super chats that got thrown in that pertain to it. And maybe this is just a very strong stand that I want to make, but Mike L said, I don't know if anyone saw the video on Twitter, but they were kicking from 52 and it was easily good from 80. 1, I don't think any NFL team is going to attempt a field goal in a random course of a game from 70, regardless of the wind. I just don't think that Bill Belichick is wired to do that. 2, you have to kick the other direction at some point. And I have a video from Twitter kicking the other direction, which you have to kick at for half the game, where it is impossible to kick a field goal. And I'm just throwing it out there. I am watching this thing go up from the 20-yard line and go backwards and move to the side. It looks like the wind's a little bit in from the side. So yes, a kicker, if he gets there in one half of him kicking it downwind from a little bit to the side, I'm probably going to be dead. But I think more times than not, as I'm logically thinking about this, if you only have half the game for a kicker and they're priced for a full game or a full workload, sure, maybe they get 1 or 2 extra points because they attempted from 60, but I'm going to take my chances by having 0. Matt Savoca, what do you think about my strategy for tonight?
I think it's really sound, and now I'm scared that I don't have 0 kickers, so respect to that. I think we were all that guy in that video you posted just giggling with how far the ball moved. Like,
it was absurd.
Like, yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, at the same time, there were some reports earlier today that the weather might actually get better after 10 p.m., but now people on the ground are saying that that's actually not true. It's going to get worse. This makes a lot of sense here. Look, it's a 1-game slate. If there are human beings on the football field that are doing things that can score fantasy points, you can play them because it's a showdown slate. But this looks like a situation where if you're going to take a stand and just get someone out of the player pool, kickers make all the sense in the world. If I'm doing that, I'm actually probably boosting the defenses because you're probably just saying that's an ugly game in general. Is that what you're also doing?
That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm getting a little bit over the field on defense. And again, we already have a low total. So I think the floor is a little bit higher on these defenses. They both get after the quarterback. They both are very good at creating turnovers. And I got to think there might be some fluky things in store. And generally, fluky things in store with weather lead to some crazy defensive plays. So I think there's more chances than not for it to work out this way. Neil, what are you doing with kickers on this slate?
Yeah, so I'm in basically the same boat as you. I don't have zero, but I am well under the field on kickers. Typically, this is the kind of, I mean, usually if I think a game is going to be low scoring, I love the kickers, but I am a little bit afraid of it, a little bit afraid of the weather, maybe more afraid of it than I should be. But yeah, I'm kind of taking the same stand that you are in that I'm playing more of the defenses, not as much of the kickers. It's a little bit scary. I kind of like your approach though of taking the full fade. I think that's something that I'm thinking about it more and more, that I need to take that approach more, because I think when I'm building my my lineups for Showdown, part of it is for fun. So then I'm like, well, if he scores, I don't want to, be completely disappointed and not have a shot. But I think that's not really the winning way to play. I think sometimes taking big stands can be the most profitable approach. So I appreciate that approach. I'm not far off it. I'm 4 and 4.7% on the kickers right now.
Yeah, and I know I might get fired as soon as we're off this stream here, because Alex Baker, notorious for loving kickers here on Showdown. And boss man, I'm so sorry. I apologize. This is just me logically thinking through something where I might be able to have an edge. And, I want to take a strong stand here on some of these showdowns. And yeah, I mean, 150 lineups, it's going to be more entertainment here as well. But I just don't want to have like 4, 5, 6% when I'm really already aggressively against the fade. If I maybe had a core of lineups that I really wanted to have, a couple core plays, and I wanted to mix in a few kickers here, a few kickers there, maybe sure. But for me, I just want to think about it. And if I'm right about this, and I'm able to avoid, 15, 20% of the field on each of these dudes, I feel like there might be some edge there. And yeah, maybe they make one from, 55 or 70 in the event of the one guy who said that it's downwind. I totally think that that's possible, but they got to kick the other way for half the game. I feel like it's a sound play just from that logic, because I see a lot of teams going for it here on 4th down in these bad weather games, and I'm kind of expecting that. Matt Savoca, anything to add here? Then we'll get to defense, then we'll get out of here.
Only that I keep thinking about Alex, except he's that tree meme, the guy behind the tree, like rubbing his hands together, like with the kickers. I mean, look, it's a low probability play. Kickers in general, especially if you're talking about the captain spot or the MVP spot, they're low probability plays in general. They're better suited for flex plays and really for cash games when you're looking for floor instead of ceiling. The ceiling probability is really low here. The chance of them getting to their ceiling is really low. So the rationale is sound. I don't know if I'm going to go zero, but I totally get it.
Voodoo chicken. I never agree with Eric, and now I'm scared I have zero kickers. Go ahead and jam 100% kickers. It's not going to change anything I do. Yesterday, smashed NFL yesterday. Oh, yeah, I also smashed NBA. So that's kind of tough for you. That's a tough scene. Yesterday must have sucked, but definitely telling you right now, very excited about this stand that I'm taking. It's going to make it for a very, very entertaining football game. I don't think my wife is going to be very prepared for when I'm freaking out when teams are going for it on 4th and 5 at their own 15. But that's what I'm looking forward to here in this game. Hopefully a little bit of that. Hopefully it gets a little bit different. Looking forward to it, guys. But let's jump over to defense and round this puppy out. We got 6 minutes to go. Make sure you have your lineups in there, and also smash that like button here simultaneously as we go. But defense, I know that we started with Neil here. Let's start with Matt. Let's round this out here for him. How are you feeling about the defenses in this spot? Obviously a low projected total here in this game. Both defenses extremely sound, getting after the quarterback, coming off of great weeks. How are you handling them on this slate?
Yeah, they're both really, really good defenses. Not just like, they're pretty good, above average defenses, really good defenses. In points allowed per play, the Buffalo Bills are second in the NFL. The New England Patriots are first in the NFL. That is toughest for opposing defenses. Bills are first in the NFL in yards allowed per pass attempt. I think one way to play this is that the Bills defense in this weather is the most impactful unit in this entire game. So I do think that the Buffalo defense is a solid play. I'm right around the field on both plays. I do have more than the field of the Bills and right below on the Patriots, but I don't think either defense is out of the question. And if you're going to do that no kicker strategy, you're probably going to get a boost to both the Bills and the Patriots.
Yes, I am. Going to you, Neil. How are you feeling about defenses in this spot?
Yeah, so I am right at the field on the Bills and a little bit under the field on the Patriots, which is actually a pretty high for me. I think I'm typically under the field on defenses. I do like them in this spot. I wouldn't have hated to be over the field. I think they're both great plays. A quarterback throws the ball and it doesn't go where he wants it to go. It could go into a defender's hands. That's not based on any kind of statistics I've looked at. That's just based on my own instincts things are going to get messy. But also, I'm a little bit scared. I don't want to get too crazy because I assume the teams are going to be running more. They're not going to be throwing it as far, so there's less opportunities there for the defense to intercept the ball. So I'm sort of wishy-washy on the defenses. It's not really a strong stand I'm taking. I'm just a little bit under the field on the Patriots, right with the field on the Bills.
Rock Latex says, how's Eric today? Having a good little Monday? I am having a really good Monday. I got to wake up, got to talk NFL with my buddy Adam, got to hang out with my boys Neil and Matt, and Awesemo down there at the bottom. Everything's great. So thank you so much for asking. I don't think we ask our friends enough how they're doing. Matt, how are you doing today?
Doing great, man. Thanks for asking.
You're welcome. Yeah, how are you doing today?
Breaking it down.
Yeah, I'm doing great, and I'm feeling better about my kicker take, us being under the field after reading Alex Baker's latest tweet, was just practicing field goal kicking on flick kick, and it was hard making them, even with 6-mile-per-hour winds. Can only imagine kicking against a hurricane force winds. So I think Alex is with us tonight.
Okay, well, that's nice. I'm going to be going back into FC. I'm going to have to do a little lineup rewind. I might have to see where some of the exposure landed, because I have a feeling that some people made some strong stands. I'm sure you could probably make a very strong case that I think kickers are going to attempt 70-yarders or something. And I just think it's going to work in the opposite. I doubt many teams want to try to have them kick it in this kind of conditions, even if the wind's at your back, because there's so many things that can go wrong in that kind of way. If you play golf, you know that hitting it downwind, the ball's still going to shoot out lower too. So if you're trying to make it from 70, 80, it's going to be hard to get that thing up in the air quick enough to be able to make that work. But either way, these are the takes, man. What a lovely showdown slate this was here. We got 3 minutes still to go here. Hit that like button. Still 1.4K of you guys hanging in, hearing us talk about defense, kickers, and all the lovely things here. But Matt Savoca, anything about this game or plays that you're getting to that you really want to readdress before we get out of here?
Nothing to specifically readdress, but I do want to say that I think that you can play, especially if you're doing multiple lineups in a game like this, you can play around with your actual projections for different sets of your lineups. And I am choosing to keep in sets of my lineups where I can't believe I'm saying this, but the weather doesn't impact the game at all. No, I don't think that's the most likely outcome. But in those games, I think Josh Allen has a chance to smash as a passer like he normally would. Again, it's a small portion of my lineups, but that's how I'm taking a stand tonight.
Neil Orfield, what do you want to talk about here before we get out of here? What's going to win you $1 million tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to be Gabriel Davis. If Gabriel Davis goes off, I think I'm going to be in a really good spot to have a shot at the top. Brandon Bolden as well. My Devin Singletary, I mentioned early on that I had a lot of him. Now I'm actually under the field after he was his projection changed. So yeah, I guess I'm not too far into the field. I still think that he's a fine play at 4,600. The projection came down when Zach Moss was ruled in. So I'm a little bit less heavy on Devin Singletary than I was coming into the slate, but it's going to be a fun one. I really don't know what to expect. I always think there's going to be a million dump-off passes in these bad weather games, and that doesn't really always happen. Right. They could just hand it off. Guys like Brandon Bolden might not get the dump-off passes that I want him to get, so we'll see. It'll be fun. Jordan
Lockhart, absolute goat there. $20 super chat to close out the show. Little bomb drop, little mic drop here for him. Thanks, gents. Stuck at work and y'all helped a lot. Happy to help you, my guy. Hopefully you're in line with us with the kickers and that goes well, because if it doesn't, I'm sure I'm going to hear about it on Twitter. That's for sure. Hey, go follow me on Twitter at Eric Lindquist. Go follow Matt Savoca over there at Draftaholic. Go follow Neil Orfield, Player Q DFS. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Another successful Monday night in the books. We are officially at lock. Let's get on out of here. No other shows here for the rest of the night. Check out the NBA Slate Starter. I'll be doing it with Renpack. He's back in town. Excited to be chatting with him. A little NBA action leading into your slate tomorrow. Tons of NBA content for that 3-gamer coming up tomorrow. Matt, Neil, we'll see you guys. I'm Eric Lindquist. We're out.